But I'm saying, but government.
I mean, forcefully taking money from some citizens through taxes in order to provide free goods and services for others, like they do in farm subsidies.
Well, that's what I'm trying to address here. Government doesn't take any money from anybody that I'm aware of and put it strictly to one singular place, only to then give money to farmers. What government does is it taxes broadly and recoups millions of dollars, billions of trillions of dollars. So in other words, our federal government right now, if you add up all the individual income taxes in a year, maybe it takes in $3 trillion. I don't know. It then decides how to spend that $3 trillion. As part of that decision-making process, over time they have determined that one of the purposes that they want to spend that money on is farm subsidies. So that is a question that they've determined based upon having taken the whole pot and where they want to spend that pot.
So they are taking money from the taxpayers, and in order to provide free goods and services for some people, be they farmers, or be they foreigners like in foreign aid, or be they Medicaid.
But again, you're on a far extreme. What you're saying then is anytime you tax and anytime you take a tax dollar and give it to anybody, you've redistributed, and you've had a forceful taking to redistribute. I'm not in agreement that that's how I believe the system operates.
Right, and that's a mischaracterization of my position. My position is that if you forcefully take the money through taxes from one citizen in order to provide free goods and services for others, not to render a service to the taxpayer. Is there a fundamental difference between forcing someone to pay for a service that's rendered to them, to you, on the one hand, and forcing them to pay for a service that's rendered to someone else? Is there a fundamental difference between those two things?
Well, again, and you and I are pretty far apart on this one. I don't see that as a direct linkage. In other words, if the government came to me and took money only from me and gave my money only from me to you, that would be a scenario that I don't think would be appropriate. But when the government has an income tax system, and I pay into the income tax system, and you pay into the income tax system, and hundreds of millions of people do, then we freely elect people to make that decision, right?
Well, 47% of the American people don't pay federal income tax.
But again, that was the decision that was made by the legislature to set the place at which people should or shouldn't pay income taxes.
Right, so those people, when they receive your money, if you pay income tax, they're taking money from you, who is paying, in order to give to them. As opposed to if you pay for a police service or for a military service or court service, where that's a service that is rendered to all of the citizens. Do you see a distinction between those two things or not? One is called redistribution of wealth, the other is not a redistribution. The other one is you're being paid for a service that's being rendered to you. You see the difference?
Well, I see the difference that you're trying to create, but what you're doing, which I think is not always fair or correct, is we have a federal budget. And I'm not defending the federal budget. I'm talking about the process here, because remember I told you before, I worry about process. You're picking out a line item in a budget, farm subsidy, right? Well, that particular budget probably has 50,000 line items. So you could look at any single one of those line items that you've just described, and then you could make this redistributive argument. What I'm saying is you take a step back and look at the system. What the system's done is we've elected people, they've set a tax rate, they've collected taxes, and then the legislature has made a determination in the budget process of where they want to allocate those resources.
No, but you can't take any item in the budget and make this argument it's redistribution of wealth, because when you look at the whole Defense Department spending, it's all for everyone, and so the individual that is paying the tax is receiving a service of national defense. So it's not being taken from him to give to someone else. It's been taken from him to render a service for him, as opposed to when it's foreign aid or farm subsidies or a lot of other things where they're taking from the taxpayer in order to provide free goods and services for other people. See the difference?
Actually, I don't. So let's go back to your farm subsidy,
okay.
right? Let's go back to your farm subsidy.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm Farmer Jones, right?
Uh-huh.
The government isn't saying we're going to take money in and get it to Farmer Jones. What they're saying is we are going to take money in and we're going to set up a class that we're going to determine is an appropriate class. Maybe all
Uh-huh,
the all the farmers that produce
all the
corn, right?
farmers. Yeah, all the
All
tall
ones that-
people.
So, right. So,
all
so
the
they give it to a group that is a like group,
Yeah.
and they don't, in theory, violate any laws because they don't discriminate. So if they're not violating laws and discriminating, then I don't have a concern with that. If they violate a law or they illegally discriminate, yes, then I have a problem with it.
So if it's legal, it's morally right?
Well, now we're moving over to moral.
Of course. I mean, all of politics is based on what you think should be the case, which is a moral term, a moral concept. Let me ask you this.
This is a class that if we're in college together,
Yeah,
we
okay.
study for about 12
Okay.
weeks on
Okay, well, how
legal
about this?
versus moral, right?
Well, is this taxpayer whose money has been taken in order
I'm
to...
having fun. You having fun?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Okay. Well.